Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Dashboard Fridays. I'm Adam from SquaredUp, and today I'm joined by my colleague Bruce. Hey Bruce.
Hello, good to be here.
Thank you very much for joining me. Bruce is a director of product at SquaredUp, so one of the tools he uses very frequently is Jira for issue tracking, for bugs. So Bruce is going to talk to us today about the plugin for SquaredUp Cloud that covers Jira. So Bruce, I'll bring up the sort of sample dashboard that we've shared on the dashboard gallery. Maybe you could
Hmm.
start by just telling us a little bit about the benefits of plugging into Jira, the kind of things you would do with the plugin here.
Cool, sure. I mean, the big issue with Jira, as I see it, because obviously you have the ability in Jira to create native dashboards, and that's all well and good, but it's only as good as the data in Jira. And let's face it, when you're running an engineering department, you haven't just got data in Jira, you've got data everywhere. And that's like sort of the key thing behind this dashboard here. And it's the whole classic one place to drive your engineering team from. So this is a dashboard for my team effectively. Well, we've got everything from Jira data to not Jira data. So I'll just quickly talk through the not Jira data first, just to make it clear what's what. So we've got build runs here. So our builds are built by Azure DevOps. I won't be going through the details of this today, but this is really useful so you can see the effect of fixing a bug on the pipeline. So when a build fails, like in the case of this one, it's really obvious that that has happened. Then we have our cost. So this is coming from Azure, which is where our test resources live. So this is the cost of that. I have a budget, and it's up to me to manage my department's budgets. And this month has been so far quite heavily planning focused. So the cost is pretty low, which I'm very happy about. We're green here, happy days. The rest of the data that's on this dashboard is Jira data. Where to start? Let's start with open bugs. So the thing with Jira is there's many places where bugs can hide. And it's really important for me to have a single place I can point my team at and go, look, these are our bugs. This is what I care about you owning and sort of fixing as a team. And right now I can see that there are 26 open ones. This is also defined as a KPI, which means that I can roll this up to sort of bigger engineering overarching dashboards, which is a really important piece because there's other people within engineering that care about my department's stuff alongside other departments' stuff, and they don't want to have it redefined multiple times. They just want to consume it in a form that makes sense to them. So they've asked me for open bugs. Here you go. It's defined here. I'm going to publish it to you as a KPI. Then we have our backlog pie charts. So this is kind of like, in terms of the work that's coming up, what's the mix here between bug work and actual engineering work, so stories essentially. And this is showing a relatively healthy split where we're not sort of swamped with bugs, which is always good. So we're not fighting that battle. Equally, we're not focusing on bugs, and we have a sort of healthy split. The other thing that this shows is just generally the shape of the backlog. How big is it? It's the classic one. So you can see, is this going up or down over time? And there's a trend line down below we'll get to in a minute. Then we have defect clustering. So defect clustering is, okay, so this is more wide now, as you can see from the numbers. We have bugs across multiple components within Jira. Where are those bugs clustering? And you can see here the authentication component has a larger number of bugs. So if there's an area we might want to focus some kind of non-feature time on improving, it's going to be the authentication piece, because clearly that's where all the bugs are. And so it's likely that's where customers are going to have issues. And so that's how this is used, essentially. Feel free to jump in if you want to ask me questions at any
Yeah,
point. If
sure.
not, I'll just carry on.
Yeah, no, please, yeah. If give us a walkthrough.
All right, okay. Then we have security critical bugs. So these are bugs that are relevant to obviously security. So this could be anything from like third-party runtime bugs, where we have to update our third-party libraries that are consumed, or issues that have come out of penetration testing or something to that effect, that affect my team. And as they're of a security nature, while they might not be high in their sort of severity, they have an extra kind of bonus lever of being security critical. That means they get prioritized more highly. And you can see here right now we're amber. We have more than we would like. So this is something that I'm going to have to focus on with my team in the not too distant future. We have
Ju-
globalization bugs. Oh, gone.
Just to jump in with a really quick question, because we've got a few tiles here showing health states. Is that something that's easy to do in Jira natively? Could you be alerted when that number's over a certain amount, or
No and no. Essentially, there's no notion of health. It's all up to the interpretation of the end user, and there's no notion of, well, you can do notifications within Jira, but you can't. You can. Jira's notifications are crazy. You can notify on literally everything that happens, and so you just end up with an email inbox full of spam. So you end up, what I ended up doing with our Jira instance, probably about 3 years ago, was turning them all off because they were not actionable. You're just drowning in a sea of noise. Anything you touch by default, obviously this is all configurable, you end up getting emailed about. Like touch equals like anything, be assigned on it at some point in the past, comment on it, anything. So there's no way to get notified on just the things that you kind of care about. So for example, email me when security critical bugs turns amber, not possible for two reasons: no definition of amber and no way to get notified on something that is that specific. Yeah.
got it?
Mm-hmm.
On the dashboard, you mentioned that sort of the trend lines below. I've seen a few Jira dashboards here and there. Is all of the data on this dashboard? Is it other things you can do in SquaredUp that you can't do in Jira dashboarding? So, for example, grouping things by day or by team. Are there filters that people might find useful, or is there anything on this dashboard that's just unachievable in Jira dashboarding?
I think that the most important thing here is just the notion of being able to create a dashboard for my team. You can
Sure.
do that in Jira. It's all driven by JQL, but anyone has the ability to create those dashboards. So you end up drowning in a sea of dashboards. Then, because there's no kind of hierarchy between them, and you haven't got the notion of health, you can't roll things up or drill down into things. So it's more, rather than any individual tile being unique in SquaredUp versus Jira, it's more the way in which dashboards are architected in SquaredUp makes the value of this tool so much higher than just native Jira dashboards. And that's obviously just even without the fact I can pull in my build data and show that alongside my Jira data.
Got it. Neat. Is there anything people should know about setting up the Jira plugin? Is it relatively straightforward?
Yeah, it's really straightforward to set up. Just to set up a new instance of it, just to show you the gist here. If I just type in Atlassian Jira, here it is. All you need to provide is essentially the URL for your Jira instance, a name, obviously, and then it uses your username and an API token. So the username you provide needs to have sufficient permissions to be able to pull in things to SquaredUp. The other thing to say is this is for cloud, Jira Cloud. I believe it will not work with on-prem. This is Jira Cloud at the moment only, but relatively simple. 3 bits of data, hit save, and you're done. Yeah.
Got it. What the first thing, sort of explain this in a few videos. The first thing these plugins do is they connect to your tool and they index all the data. What kind of objects would people expect to see? What can you use when you're scoping a dashboard in SquaredUp?
So for that, I think the best thing to do is actually just to create a new tile and just to show you the sorts of objects that we have available. So I'm going to create a new scope here, and I'm going to scope to Jira. I'm going to pick on the cookdown Jira instance. And the first thing, if I drag this down, that you'll see is I can scope to specific things like components, which are very commonly used in sort of dividing up a project between team. We've got filters. Now, filters are sort of super valuable because there is a life that existed before SquaredUp. And in that world, the only way you can organize the chaos is with saved JQL filters. So this is probably going to be the most useful thing to most people. We've got issue types here. So the ability to say, look, only show me the bugs versus the epics versus the incidents. And these are all pulled from my Jira instance. So they are including all my weird and wonderful custom issue types like test, for example. Just going back to the list. We've got labels. We don't personally use labels too heavily. Occasionally they'll get used on like a bug bash. If we want to tackle a subset of the bugs that are in a project, and might go and tag up a bunch and say, hey, tackle everything with bug bash, like whatever, 5th of April or something. And we've got projects. So this is scoping to a specific Jira project. Releases, again, specific Jira releases, as in the context of Jira. And then, whoops, one layer too far back. Users. Users an interesting one, because this is a concept that isn't so strongly defined inside of Jira when it comes to scoping. But you can scope to a single user, which is quite interesting, because then you can see all of the objects relating to them. But really, if you're sort of a seasoned Jira administrator, it's going to come down to the good old JQL query, which anyone that's used Jira before, you'll be familiar with just freehanding them essentially in Jira. You can just copy and paste your JQL query into here, as is in this example. Definitely a really easy way of getting going here.
So that's just there's nothing special for that. If it works in the advanced search in Jira, you can just paste it in SquaredUp and you'll get the same values.
Yeah, exactly the same. Exactly the same. It gives people that are familiar with Jira a sort of nice way of using the tool they're already familiar with, the way in which they're already familiar with, sort of sifting and sorting through the data, a way of pulling that into SquaredUp.
Nice. So with the just think about the user one. I spend some time in Jira occasionally, split across multiple projects. So being able to just build a dashboard for myself that shows anything relevant to me is quite cool. Being able to pick myself as a user, or if there are key areas of our app that I care about, I could generally build a dashboard for the specific component I care about, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do some of this stuff in Jira, but usually the answer is JQL, and that doesn't work if you're not a seasoned Jira admin.
Nice, yeah. And I guess as long as someone set the plugin up, it could be the case that there are people consuming this data who don't have access to Jira. Maybe they don't use it routinely. They don't get it. They just want that output KPI. They just want that health state, that kind of stuff. So that extra level above is, cool.
It's possible, but what's more likely is you've got people that can't be bothered, frankly, to wade through Jira to figure out what they need to see. So think of your VP type folk, like your good self, Adam. Would you like to spend hours and hours wading through Jira to find the answers, or just look at a dashboard? Let's be honest, it's not going to be wade through Jira for hours and hours. It's not necessarily to do with access, more to do with this. It's like a noisy database full of stuff. So this is a nice way for someone else to be able to provide value by doing the work of creating the dashboards for those types.
And I can even then be lazy at how I look at things, right? Because it just looks like all my other dashboards now. I don't have to try and dashboard somewhere else. I just always get my nice little green red health blocks. Love it.
So when it comes to kind of that level of roll up, so that I was mentioning earlier on KPIs, it was for exactly that use case that exists. There's a guy who runs sort of releases within SquaredUp, and he cares about essentially what's your team's open bug list. He doesn't care about how do you define your open bug list. He just wants the number and to know whether it's going up or going down, whether it's red, amber, or green. And he doesn't want to define it himself. He wants me to define it and to roll that up to him. And this allows me to do that by defining it as a KPI, which he can then surface on a dashboard. The same with, there are a couple of other KPIs on here, I'm sure. Yeah.
Nice. And again, because you've got monitoring turned on your cost tile and on that tile with your Azure DevOps data, the health of your service is flexible, right? It's based on, maybe the budget's gone over, or releases are failing, or that kind of thing.
Yeah. So this is at the release is failing. The build is failing is an interesting one. We went through a stage of having lots of red builds, but they were all not like internal builds. They weren't like shipped to production. So originally we had this flag as red when there were failures, and that was great. It was useful for me, but given I can see it by looking at my dashboard, it wasn't so helpful for the roll up because it made my team red. So that's the reason why this tile has not got health right now. But bugs, by contrast, is something that matters because that is rolled up and is cared about from a central perspective.
Yeah, nice, cool. Is there anything else to make people aware of? So it seems like it's a pretty simple plugin.
Yeah.
All the usual sort of squared up benefits are there. There's some great out of box data streams. You can bring your JQL experience if you want to do something a bit more custom.
Um,
That about sum it up.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's all about pulling all the data together from all the different places where you care about pulling it from. So when we're talking engineering, Jira is obviously an important one, but build systems and cost are my other important ones. So yeah, pretty much a fair summary.
Nice. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and just wrap us up quickly. Well, first of all, thanks to Bruce for coming on. I'm sure we'll have you back for some other exciting topics at some point soon. You can head over to squaredup.com/dashboard gallery to see more information on a bunch of the other plugins we have. There's lots of great write-ups, links to blogs on things like Dora metrics and Red metrics, the kind of things you might be interested in, sort of combining or getting value from Jira with. And as always, head over to community.squaredup.com to connect with some experts to ask some questions. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks again to Bruce. Catch you next time.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Bye.